Hi everybody, I hope you are doing well. Thanks for attending. Let me introduce myself. I am a professor of ethology, the animal behavior science at University of São Paulo, Ribeirão Preto, state of São Paulo, Brazil. At the psychology department, I advise graduate students on the psychobiology program. My talk is about acoustic communication, not in the traditional or didactic view where one sends a signal to a receiver. It is about social eavesdrop or merely eavesdrop. It considers that other conspecifics probably also hear and react to its acoustic signals, acting as a third party in the interaction between emitter and receiver. The eavesdropper is the one that takes information from the interaction, not from the signal alone, as defined by McGregor. Okay. You are hearing the song of the Rochinol. The passerines offer a broad set of eavesdropping examples observed in nature or in very elegant experimental paradigms, as this one. Territorial males use their familiar neighbor's performance in a vocal interaction with an unfamiliar intruder as a standard for their own response. That means they eavesdrop. Here, the eavesdrop is noticed by the different decision a third-part male M2 takes after watching its neighbor interacting in a singing dispute against an intruder. M1 and the speaker playback of another male song represents the interaction between the resident male and the intruder into the territory of M1. In a first experiment, the intruder sings into M1 territory, but in the second, the sing is outside M1 territory. So what would those M2 that watched the interaction and the resident male was challenged by this intruder and could not withdraw the intruder. But here the intruder is singing outside M1 territory, so M2 can use this information that this M1 was able to withdraw the intruder, so he would probably also withdraw this M1 if he tries to invade this territory. So the different behaviors of this M2 and this make us think about the eavesdrop. In a first experiment, the intruder sings into M1 territory, and M2 individuals tended to challenge the M1 that was not able to withdraw the intruder. In a second experiment, M1 are winners that succeeded in defending their territory as the intruder sung outside its limits. So after watching the interactions M1 here and M1 here, those M2 took different reactions, and two individuals here invaded M1 territory in another part of the experiment, but this one never invaded the opportunity of M1 that was successful in withdrawing the intruder. And also in fish, eavesdrop was also seen. Here, Betta fish male interacted in an aquarium and had the opportunity to display visually to each other. A group of males watched those disputes, named eavesdrop male, and others did not, the native males. Then loser and winner males were joined with females that had observed their performance and those that had not. The loser's male courtship only the native females here and avoided the females that saw their lousy performance. The winner courtship both the navy and the eavesdropper female. What cognitive process can be involved in that is a fascinating question. Males adjusted their response to an audience in ways more complex than previously appreciated. Understanding the complexity of communication networks will set insight into the mechanisms of sexual selection, we hope. Eavesdrop of acoustic interaction occurs in mammals. The coatis live in matriarchal groups that accept an adult male's presence, as saw by the PhD Aline Gasco. The company of a preferred male, maybe the father of the infants, avoids infanticide males, and in high-density populations, many groups and solitary males overlap their roam range and eventually get involved in disputes. For instance, coatis are almost always vocalizing, signaling their presence, warning about predators, and infants requesting adults' help. They are sounds that are received by a coatis audience. How would it influence their behavior? Would the third part benefit from monitoring other species members, memorizing their identities and performance, and making decisions based on that? And the one that calls, what risks are then assuming for screaming loud? Probably yes, not only in primates, but in mammals in general, the eavesdrop occur because opportunities to watch the performance of others, for example, foraging, disputing food, it happens all the time. So here is a wild cave foraging together with two other caves. We have to test it experimentally. But there are opportunities to eavesdrop. It can be advantage for the emitter at the audience. For instance, if they favor their infants, few competitors show their motivation to defend their food resource. And the coatis are a very nice model for this because they live in groups full of individuals, and they have a very flexible behavior. When it's about getting food, they are really flexible animals. Here we observed a big group of guinea pigs formed by males and females. Male use agonistic and sexual display in male-male contests and male-female interactions. Just like we saw in the Rochinol and the Betta fish, eavesdrop may help males to avoid the more dangerous competitors, and females can use the information about males' performance and status. The male who decides to challenge others may be prepared to affect his performance to an audience. Now, the male who decides to challenge others may be prepared to affect his performance to an audience. The audience in carnivora, primates, and rodents may be miles away because they use long-distance calls or loud calls. We use both names. The maned wolf is one of the species that utters a loud bark that I like a lot. Its home range is estimated to vary between 40 and 80 square meters, where individuals are sparsely distributed. The reproductive pair hunts alone, maybe in not coincident areas, and meet after some time. Possibly for that and to defend their territories from others, they use this extended roar bark. I'll play here. I like it so much. The skull is prepared to travel long distance without losing its properties. For instance, the energy is concentrated in the lower frequencies that after some 100 meters is still conserved. So we lost this with the distance, but the the low frequency part of the call is preserved. The hoarse bark broadcasted by Ferreira and colleagues was recorded 160 meters away. Half of them were also recorded at 300 meters away. The individuals that loud calls will have to deal with the possibility of eavesdropping. Besides its pair mate, other maned wolves may listen and use it for its interest. What is the risk to the emitter? And who benefits from eavesdrop? We have seen that the third party benefits. It's worth listening if you can use it to make the right decisions later or immediately. Interestingly, Ferreira et al. Found that only 4 from the 21 recorded sequences emitted by free-ranging maned wolves received a vocal response. Most of the calls found no receptor or eavesdropper that decided to stay silent, I suppose. That was the proposition of Macomb and Rebai, observing for several years communities of lions and elephants. Solitary males passing by in a defended territory may benefit from traveling in silence. Loud signaling should benefit the emitter also for the signal to be selected. It has costs. It's expensive as any acoustic signal. The loud ones are even more energetically expensive and may attract predators. Some strategies may protect the emitter of alarm calls, those that shout danger to warn their relatives. The structure of these loud alarm calls make it difficult for the search location. They are composed of repeated pulses that distribute Where is the calling animal here? None of them. And there it is. No, it was not that. That one. And she was warning about people passing by. Okay. The structure of these loud calls makes it difficult for the search location. They are composed of repeated pulses that disturb the precise binaural location, and its high pitch is more susceptible to reverberation that also turns difficult its precise location. This is the rock cave Queradon rupestris, in Portuguese called Mocó, and it lives in Caatinga, was recorded by Raimundo Novaes de Alencar, that is watching us here. I hope. Okay, let's hear some of them.
Bush dog, Theothos venaticus.
Olingo.
Bassarician Gabi.
But this one is not represented here.
Kinkajou.
And now the
Protus flavus.
Those sounds were taken from these emmons, very nice and very useful guides with sounds of neotropical rainforest mammals. And this one was recorded by Raimundo Novaes de Alencar. Is that same call that we saw in the video before. And here the tapirs. The tapir emits a little bit longer note, but it's also high pitched. Okay. And there are also calls that the answer needs that someone that receives it find. So this is what we would call, what I am calling here, long distance contact promoting calls. Here uttered by females in estrus. Look the energy in lower frequencies, just like the maned wolf. Here is the maned wolf, and they have energy concentrated here. Let's hear this jaguar female roaring in heat.
Fêmea no cio. Esse é o macho. Loud calls, sowing.
This is the Susuarana or Puma, the male also in heat. This is the moment of the mating, as said by emmons and collaborators. And here again the female. And this one is the maned wolf that we have already heard. I end my talk here offering an elaboration to the audience perspective. In a real network, intermediate recipients may also retransmit information they acquire to others. The third part would acquire self-use and transmit data to third connections in the net. Peter McGregor invites us to extend our view of communication behavior. He notes that apart from Macomb's and Rabbi contributions to the Old World terrestrial mammal species and the primatologist studies on apes and monkeys' cognitive abilities, there is a lack of investigations under this approach in mammals. I hope I succeed in exploring the web communication theory applied to neotropical species of terrestrial mammals. Thanks for your attention.